Hello, I'm Jeff Paur, senior writer for Realtime Fantasy Sports. Welcome to another edition of the Realtime Fantasy Sports Show. On the show, I'm joined once again by a contributing writer for Realtime Fantasy Sports, Logan Glaser. Logan, thanks so much. Join me.
Thanks for having me on, Jeff.
All right, Logan, we're going to talk about the Champions Draft today. So this is a draft we do every year on the site. It's a lot of fun. We invite the top-ranked players at Realtime Fantasy Sports. So this is the best of the best. You're in it this year. You haven't been in it yet, so.
Yeah, this is my first year in it. I'm excited to go against these top players and see how well I do.
Yeah, it's always a lot of fun, different winners every year, so I'm excited to talk about this draft. It just took place. Before I get to that, though, Logan, I did want to mention our great commissioner product here at Realtime Fantasy Sports. Don't forget to give us a shot. I know everybody likes our money leagues, and you should get in those as well, but our commissioner product, too. For this season, if you're new to the site, you can do it free. Free first season for our commissioner product. The promo code is RTFS News. Just put that in the promo spot on the site, and you can get a free commissioner product if you're new to the site for the first year. So don't forget to sign up for our great commissioner product. It's a good one, right, Logan?
Absolutely. So many different options, so many customizations that you can do, and with scoring, rules, free agency. Lots of different options there.
Again, RTFS News is the promo code to take advantage of that. Also, our money leagues, leagues are going off fast and furious now in our money leagues. All different price points, all different games. We have $500,000 fantasy championship, our best ball championship as well. So tons of great products, tons of different price points too. And Logan, you want to talk about something that we're going to be doing new this year? It's a pick'em game. Can you tell our viewers
so we have
about that?
a new pick'em game launching in the next week or two. What you'll be able to do is pick an over or under on a player prop, such as strikeouts, hits. For football, it'll be yards, receiving yards, passing yards, and you can even bet against their fantasy points for over or under. So you can go ahead and parlay these props, and you can win up to 20 times your entry fee that you put in on those props.
Yeah, we're really excited about this, a different type of game we're offering everybody this year. So be on the lookout for that. It's going to be launched here very shortly. Could be launched already by the time you're watching this video. So we're excited about that. All right, Logan, let's talk about this Champions League here at Realtime Fantasy Sports we do every year. Like I said, we invite the best owners. I go through the top fantasy players report, and I send out emails to all the guys ranked in the top 10, top 11, because you and I are in it. So they join, and it's a lot of fun. It's a great draft every year. And you had the 5th pick. I had the 2nd pick. My son Henry was in the league as well. He had the 4th pick, so he was right in front of you. I want to talk about your team first, dive into that a little bit. You went Cooper Kupp with your first pick. Was this a target of yours at that spot? Any debate here?
Yeah, after getting the 5th pick, I was looking at either Kupp or Jefferson at that 5th overall pick. I knew running backs were going to go early, and then we're probably looking at a receiver first around the 5th pick. So I was debating between Kupp or Jefferson, whichever one was there. Both of them were there at that time, but I ended up going with Kupp with that selection there, just because how great his season was last year. He had an absolute dominant season, best wide receiver or season ever for a wide receiver, and I expect him to do well this year. I don't think he's going to repeat how his numbers were last year, but I still think he can be a top 1 wide receiver this year.
So on the way back, you went receiver again, got Deebo Samuel. So you went receiver, only one of 2 teams to do that. Again, was this a strategy, or did he just fall in your lap?
He just fell in my lap. I thought he was going to go a lot earlier than that. I thought he was going to go early in the 2nd round. So Deebo finished last year as the number 2 wide receiver overall. So I'm coming into the season with the number 1 and number 2 overall wide receivers from last year. I think it's going to set my team up really well, because I'm also happy about my running backs.
That was my next question. So when you do that, obviously something has to suffer a little bit. You end up getting James Conner, Antonio Gibson, Damian Harris, Kenyon Drake later in the draft. Are you happy with your running backs despite going receiver?
Yeah, so if you actually look at the stats for these running backs, 3, James Conner, Gibson, and Harris all finished inside the top 10 last year for running backs. You had Conner at 5th overall, Harris at 8th, and Gibson at 10. I'm really surprised Gibson is going in the 4th round, along with Harris in the 6th round. Gibson, I expected him to go near the end of the 3rd round, and when I looked up his ADP, going near the end of the 4th round, I was kind of blown away. So I think that's an absolute steal for me in the 4th round.
I was looking at Harris when you picked him. I was hoping he would come back to me. I ended up getting Rashad Penny, which I would have much rather had Harris at that spot. So he's a value I like as well. I really like your receiver depth. In rounds 7 through 10, you went Devonta Smith, Robert Woods, Brandon Ayuk, Michael Gallup. You had 2 really good receivers anyway on your roster. Was it, again, kind of a strategy, loading up in these middle rounds with the receiver?
Yeah, it definitely was, just based on the fact that I didn't take a receiver rounds 3 through 6, and that's kind of a position that I really wanted to have some depth in. If I had to redo this draft, though, what I would have done is taken Marquise Brown in the 5th overall pick instead of Justin Herbert. I would rather have Marquise Brown in that 5th overall slot on my team, and then I would have liked to go on Joe Burrow in round 7 and kind of switch those positions right there. But overall, I'm pretty happy with how it turned out with my wide receiver core.
Last question for you, tight end spot. So when you kind of have a draft where you go receiver early and then you took a running back, quarterback in the 5th round, like you mentioned, tight end spot's might suffer a little bit. Are you happy with how it turned out still?
I am. I think Irv Smith Jr. is a player I was always targeting on my team. I don't know if I would like him to be my full-time starter at the number 1 tight end spot, but I ended up getting Hunter Henry as well after that. If you're not getting a top wide receiver or tight end such as Andrews, Kittle, Kelsey, Pitts, I kind of like waiting on that until rounds 10 or lower, just based on the depth of wide receivers this year.
I did the same thing, ended up with the tight end spot. Same thought process as you. If you don't get one of those top guys, might as well just wait. So I'm going to look at my team now. So I had the 2nd pick. I went Austin Eckler, Ezekiel Elliott, Keenan Allen, Metcalf, Mahomes, Penny, Edwards Hilaire, DeAndre Hopkins, Lazard, and then Pat Freiermuth, Gesicki, Justin Fields, Jacoby Myers, 49ers, Tyler Beatty, and Dustin Hopkins as my kicker. So one pick that I feel like is getting a lot of, I don't know about hate, but a lot of talk, because I asked the Champions League owners for their thoughts on this. It's going to go in our draft guide, and they do a write-up on picks, surprising picks they like, a couple different options. But a lot of them said they thought Ezekiel Elliott in my spot, I took him too early. So for me, I think it's a steal. I mean, he was 7th in running back scoring last year, and he had a down year. He's consistent. He gets a goal line work. I know Tony Pollard's there, but with all the running backs that were already off the board, I'm just kind of surprised that Elliott gets as much hate as he does. He's still only, I think, 28 years old, 27 years old. So
yeah, he's considered kind of young technically for a running back if you compare him to some of these other running backs in their ages.
Exactly. So I don't get the Elliott hate. I think he gets hated on a little too much. I definitely would have taken him before a couple of these other running backs that were picked in that 2nd round. So I was happy to get him at that point.
Yeah, and a question I had for you about your team is, what about DK Metcalf? A top wide receiver talent, kind of falling towards the end of round 4. He's not really sure who's QB is going to be. Does that scare you with Metcalf?
It does scare me, and that's why he's falling, because the talent's obviously there. So I'm banking on Baker Mayfield getting traded there with this pick. I just felt like he had the most talent, the highest ceiling out of the options left for me at that point. I still think if Metcalf has Mayfield throwing him passes, I'm going to be feeling pretty good about it.
Awesome. And then also another one with another Seattle player is Rashad Penny. What do you think about that Seattle backfield? Do you think Penny's going to emerge out of that, or is it going to be kind of split with him and Walker?
I still trust Penny. It's a great question. Again, this was another one where I think people thought I went a little early on him, but if you look at his numbers at the end of last year, man, he had some monster numbers. He carried fantasy teams in playoffs. A lot of people that won championships had Rashad Penny on their roster. He's going to get first shot. I know he has the injury history, but in round 6, with the other guys that went around him, I just think it's value that I'm not going to pass up. I still think Kenneth Walker could be a factor at some point, but just based on what he did last year, I still like Penny in that spot. I didn't think it was too high at all for him.
Yeah, and then getting away from both of our teams, what other team stood out to you in this draft?
It's a great question. For me, one that I really liked, a couple I liked, Rocco's team, he picked out of that 3rd spot. He got McCaffrey, Barkley, Andrews, Waddle, Cooks, Godwin, Thomas. I think he has some questions at receiver, especially with Godwin and Thomas. Their health kind of up in the air, but I love his running backs. He has the number 1 tight end from last year. I like his quarterback in Matthew Stafford. He got him really late. That was a team that stood out to me. Another one was Tommy Gunn. I thought he did a really good job. He went running back with his first 2 picks, Dalvin Cook, Javonte Williams. Then he got Mike Evans, Kyle Pitts, Marquise Brown. Quarterbacks are Kyler Murray, Tom Brady. I think that team's really, really deep. Like him a lot. What about you? Any teams stand out?
Yeah, everyone basically in this draft was talking about Rocco's team, but the team that really stood out to me was Always Bet on Black, drafting out of the number 1 spot. His running backs are going to have Taylor and Mitchell, and then his wide receivers, he's got Tyreek Hill, A.J. Brown, Bateman. And then he's also got George Kittle at tight end. QBs, he's got Lamar Jackson and Trey Lance, who could be a surprise with Lance as a great QB2 on a roster, and I really like his team overall.
Yeah, I like his team too. I think when you pick out of that first spot or on the wheel, you can get away with getting one of those elite tight ends, and your roster still looks pretty good. And I think he definitely did that. So that was another team I liked as well. So how about getting back to the draft a little bit? I did want to mention one other thing about my team. My toughest pick, it was kind of like you, Patrick Mahomes in round 5. I normally never go quarterback that early ever, but
he just kept falling.
Yeah, and I just was shocked he was there and picking near the wheel as well. You have to wonder what is going to be left when I pick again.
Yeah.
So I didn't know if a quarterback run would happen. In hindsight, I probably wouldn't have taken him because I would have much rather had, Joe Burrow went in round 7.
I know, that's what I was kind of looking
Yeah.
at. I was like, wow, these QBs really went pretty late.
They normally do fall in this draft, just based on past history, but I was still surprised to see some of the guys went where they did go in the draft. So any other surprises for you or trends in this draft that anything stood out to you?
A player that I really wanted to fall to me was Mark Andrews in round 3. I really wanted him with that third pick for mine. He just kept falling based off his ADP. He's looking at like end of round 2, and when he was there at 3.3, I was just hoping 2 more picks just slide on down to me, but Rocco ended up taking him, which was a good pick by him.
So one surprise to me, this is the highest I've seen him go, is Aaron Jones. He went 4th pick, 2nd round, ahead of Javonte Williams, Nick Chubb, Cam Akers, Saquon Barkley, Ezekiel Elliott. I just don't know if I'm completely confident with this. I know, obviously, the thinking here is he's going to get a lot of catches out of the backfield, but still, A.J. Dillon's there.
Yeah.
He could end up getting the goal line work. I'm not a huge Aaron Jones fan this year. He really kind of scares me.
Yeah, I'm fading Jones as well this year, especially.
Anything else stand out to you at all? Anything you want to mention?
Another player I want to talk about is Alvin Kamara, about where you kind of want to draft him in these leagues. So right now, based on reports, he's kind of looking at maybe a 6-game suspension at minimum is what reports have kind of been going. And with selecting him in the 4th round, there's a lot of risk involved. If he doesn't get suspended, that's the steal of the draft. Now, if he's suspended over 6 games, then you're giving away your 4th round pick, and it's going to be hard to make the playoffs without that.
Yep, definitely. And it's funny you talk about that, though, because a guy I've been getting in a lot of my drafts lately is DeAndre Hopkins. I just feel like he's falling, and I got him in the 8th round. I think in another draft I just did, I got him in the 10th round.
Yeah, if you're getting him that late,
Yeah.
I mean,
why not?
Yeah, you already know how long he's going to be out for. He's going to be back in plenty of time for the rest of the season. With him going in rounds 8 and 10, that's different than taking someone in round 4 that has that risk.
Yep, I have 2 decent receivers in my opinion, in Allen and Metcalf. Metcalf has some questions, but then I got Hopkins for down the stretch where he could be a number 1 for a fantasy team, and I think that's good value at that point.
Yes, for
sure.
So
let's talk about value as well. Any other value picks? Anybody stand out to you? You thought did a good job of getting value later in the draft?
Yeah, I mentioned Andrews, and then another one I really like the value of Kyle Pitts in middle of the 4th round. I was debating between him and Gibson for a long time, but I ended up going Gibson. But I absolutely love Pitts going near the end of the 4th round.
One that stood out to me, and it was a team I liked, and a lot of people liked, was Rocco. He got Stafford in round 11. Again, he waited on a QB and got a guy that could be middle of the pack, number 1 QB in round 11. So I thought that was really good value. Another one, I'll give a shout out to my son Henry, James Robinson in round 9. Again, I just think that's too late for Robinson with the way running backs fly off the board. He's probably going to be the early down back. I know Etienne's there, and he's going to get a ton of catches, and he looks great in the offseason, but Robinson's still there. He's probably going to get the goal line work, and an offense that should be better too, and I think round 9 is really good value for
sure, yeah.
Any other final takeaways for you that you want to talk about?
I'm excited for football just to start up and get this league underway. The draft's over with this league, but a lot's going to be won on the waiver wire, and I'm excited for that.
I'd be remiss if I didn't mention my son's team, Henry. We can go over that real quick. He'll like that. So he took Najee Harris with the 4th pick. Then he got Cam Akers, Deontay Johnson, Terry McLaurin, A.J. Dillon, T.J. Hawkinson, Elijah Moore, Dak Prescott, James Robinson, Chris Olave, Cole Kmet, Marlon Mack, Tua, Odell Beckham, Dolphins suck up. I actually thought he did a pretty good job.
Yeah, I really liked Henry's team.
Yeah.
I mean, he put together a really good roster. He's got 3 solid running backs that you can rely on. He's also got 3 good wide receivers, and then he's caps that off with Dak at QB and Hawkinson at tight end. That's a good setup.
My only question for him was I think he took Hawkinson maybe a little early.
He was pretty early, especially with where the other tight ends kind of went.
Yep. But he waited on a QB, then got a good one at Prescott. Like you said, good running back depth. I like his receivers as well. And having Beckham, too, late in the draft. Another guy, I think, if you can get him late for a bench spot and you got good depth ahead of him, I think it's a good strategy, most definitely. All right, Logan, thanks for joining me once again. I appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
This was our Champions draft recap. Again, on the draft guide, it's a free draft guide. We have an app as well. We're going to be releasing stories on this as well. All the owners, I'm just about done getting those all together. All the owners have submitted comments, including yourself, Logan. You did a good job, as always, getting their insight into the draft. So it's a lot of fun to read, and I think it's a great guide. And I've done drafts this year already, a lot of them with the Colton and the Wolfman show, which I'm on, but this was the most competitive by far. I mean, you can tell these guys were good drafters. Nothing gets by these guys.
They know where their players are going with the ADPs and know when to steal those players.
Yep, it's a tough league, and I think it's a great guide for everybody out there when you're looking at your drafts for this coming season. All right, Logan, thanks again for joining me. Really appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks for having me on, Jeff.
This has been Jeff Paur for Real-Time Fantasy Sports. Have a great day.